also members of the audience as well. So with that, I'll ask our secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Bill Poole.
Here.
Secretary Greg Reed.
Here.
Senator Garland Gudger.
Here.
Senator Bobby Singleton.
Here.
Representative Anthony Daniels. Representative Danny Garrett.
Here.
Ms. Brittany Somerville. Mr. Rich Beelan.
Here.
Mr. Dave King.
Here.
Mr. A. Parker.
Here.
Dr. Michael Chambers.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
All right, a quorum being present, I will call this meeting of the Innovate Alabama Board meeting into order. And we'll, I guess, a couple of ground rules today. This is a public meeting. Only board members will be recognized to address the board this afternoon so that we can move our meeting along. Accordingly, we have I think a little more streamlined agenda than normal this afternoon, so we'll begin to move through that. Our first item on the agenda is to take up the meetings. Well, let me pause for a minute and recognize we have a new board member today before I am anxiously getting into the business today. Pro Tem Gudger is new to the board. I think everybody knows Pro Tem Gudger, but we are excited to have you on the board. We're excited to keep Secretary Greg Reed on the board. Thank you, Garland, for joining us, and we're excited.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm
This
excited about being on the board and being able to help any way I can.
is a fantastic board, you will find, and I think the mission and the accomplishments of Innovate Alabama are incredibly important to the state, so we're excited to have you involved.
Thank you so much.
So I'll return to the agenda, and we'll take up the December 10, 2024 board meeting minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The December 10, 2024 board minutes have been approved. I'll turn the floor to our CEO, Cynthia Crutchfield, to discuss our Innovate Alabama 2025 focus areas.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us here today. I'm going to reflect a little bit on closing of 2024. Hopefully, most of you got to attend State of Innovation Day, which is our annual celebration of accomplishments that we've made. If you were not able to attend, please do try for this coming year for 2025. I think we have a very exciting year that we've laid out in terms of moving programs forward. So we hope that you'll join us for 2025 State of Innovation Day. For network designation, I think we'll start there. We currently have a round open for that particular program. This is round 3. We will be closing out that round within the next few days. We do have open grant designees that we will be awarding, again, within the next few days. And we are looking to make some changes to that program as we go forward. A couple of reminders that each designee can only have one grant opened at a time. Also, we'll be prioritizing regionalization and collaborative support throughout the regions, and then considering a match for future rounds of this program. So please keep those things in mind as we move forward. We are looking at revamping some of our processes for tax credit. That has been a very successful program for us, and we want to make sure that we are getting all that we can out of that program in terms of supporting our accelerators and our innovative companies. So we'll be having 2 rounds versus the quarterly rounds that we have had in the past, giving organizations a little bit more time to prepare, and then on our end, a little bit more efficiency in terms of getting the results of those rounds out. So the rounds will open in March and will open in June. So again, please keep those things in mind as we go forward. The other thing that we are doing is consolidating reporting so that we can be more efficient in that process as we evaluate the impacts of the programs and the projects that the organizations are embarking on. We did have our first ecosystem convening this year in January. This was our opportunity to really talk to the ecosystem participants and hear their voices around the programs that we've laid out. Very positive feedback. We had almost 100 attendees there. And it was a 5-hour session where the directors just had the opportunity to provide overview of programming and then receive feedback and questions from the broader ecosystem. Very successful engagement and high demand, so we'll be doing that most likely quarterly, but at least twice a year going forward. And then finally, the ambassador program, if you recall from the commission report, we are looking to stand that program up during 2025. That program is basically looking for influencers and ambassadors who can help us promote the tech economy within the state of Alabama. And if you have any recommendations for the ambassador program, we are still structuring that program. So more to come on that. But if you have any recommendations on it, ambassadors, we'd be happy to take those. Finally, I would like to take a little bit of a departure in terms of some of the programs, and I'd like to introduce our External Affairs Director, Ms. Hope Razzle, has joined us. We're very excited to have her on board. We'd like to just give her a few minutes to introduce herself and talk about her role with Innovate Alabama.
Good afternoon. It's a little different addressing you on this side of the podium. Normally, I'm knocking on your office door, half of you, begging for something. First, I'd like to say a word of thanks to each of you for the board and Cynthia, our CEO, for affording me the opportunity to serve as the new External Affairs Director. A lot of work to do, a lot of work's been done, and we are on our way. This marks my 4th week in the role, and I wish I could say I've had a little entryway, but it's more of diving in the deep end and okay, I'm treading water and I'm ready to start my laps. Most of you are aware of my background coming off a 16-and-a-half-year career in state government. 5 of you are sitting at this table that I've served with for many, many years, and I look forward to continuing our relationship. As far as my focus areas, I would like to hone in on 3 areas. Legislation. I know that we will have some policy initiatives that we will need to enact to further the mission of Innovate Alabama, as well as serving a bridge between Innovate Alabama, the board of directors, the key stakeholders in the government, and industries across. Also, maintain and cultivate new relationships with our local officials, state legislature, and federal delegation. Most importantly, we are looking to expand our corporate partnerships, which I believe is a wonderful opportunity for Innovate Alabama to get our name and our message and our brand out. In addition to those, I am hopefully going to be in conjunction with our PR firm working on scheduling and implementing an ecosystem engagement tour, which we will be highlighting innovation stories across the state, all while expanding and building on the entrepreneurial ecosystems. In closing, I look forward to working with each of you individually, contacting you, meeting you, traveling to your area, and let's Senator Singles say, let's get to work.
Word.
Right.
Word.
Thank you.
That concludes my report. Yep. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. We will go ahead and move into our program discussions. So first up, we have access to capital, and we will ask for Representative Garrett, if you would please introduce the SSBCI program.
Thank you, Chairman. The State Small Business Credit Initiative is the program where the state received an allocation of $97 million. And the first tranche of that has been, of $27 million, has already been deployed into several small businesses, various across the state. And it's been we're encouraged by the progress, encouraged by the support and reception. And we're awaiting further efforts on the second tranche. We have an investing portion, a lending program under those. But all these are focused on small businesses, which are really critical to the growth of the state and the future of the state. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the Executive Director for the Alabama SSBCI program, Charlie Pond, for more detailed update.
Thank you, Representative Garrett, and good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on our SSBCI program, specifically Lend AL and Invest AL. I'm thrilled to be in Montgomery, which is home to 5 small businesses and counting that we've partnered with as part of our program. Last update in December, I talked about a couple of big things coming down the pipeline. I'll give a quick update off the top on some of those things. The first one is our non-material modification to our application, where we made some slight changes, requests with Treasury to make those changes. to allow our team a little more flexibility in how we administer the program on the Lend-AL side, make it easier for us to meet what the market was asking for. And so we got official word that we're approved on the end of the year at 12/30. We're excited as a part of that allocation or part of that modification. We also reallocated $7.7 million from Lend-AL to Invest-AL. This really helped us shorten the runway to go get tranche 2, but it also was allowing us to meet the demand that we're seeing on the Invest-AL side, specifically with startups across the state that meet our requirements of the 1-to-1 matching, private match, the 90-day rule, all of the criteria that we're held to. We saw a robust pipeline, and this allowed us to go meet that demand. The big news, I referenced this in the meeting in December, but tranche 2 application, Treasury has it in their hands. So we've gotten our initial response back around some of the items that may have popped up on their initial review. Next couple of days to correct and get that fully submitted. But based on our assessment internally, we anticipate receiving the full amount that is obligated to the state of Alabama. Our next step would be a spot audit where they would go in and ask for certain files that they want to look for consistency, make sure that we're following Treasury guidelines. On that note, I do want to acknowledge with the recent funding pause, the situation is that we've been assured that our program remains unaffected at this time. Operations and what we're telling the ecosystem across the state is we're continuing to operate as normal until we're told otherwise. So we're excited to keep the program moving full steam ahead. You see a picture on the slide. We've got a visit from the U.S. Treasury that came down and met with our fund managers as part of our Fund to Funds program, helping kind of educate on what the process looks like. Let's strategize how we can drive the biggest impact. And then most importantly, making sure that our fund managers know what it takes to be compliant with our internal processes, but also our external expectations. A quick update on our Invest-AL program. To date, we have now closed 15 investments. So we're really excited about, I think it says 13 on here, but it's 15 investments as of today, over $5 million in capital into the ecosystem with a 3.6 private capital ratio. So for every $1 of SSBCI funding, we're being a catalyst for $3.60 of private capital. It's a testament to the program's ability to attract that private capital into the ecosystem. I'm also happy to share that of our 15 investments, 14 align with the state's Catalyst plan. So we've narrowed that down, or we've isolated that to understand we're affecting mobility, bioscience, core IT, and ag and food, just to name a few of those focus areas. We've obligated $6 million of our 8.5 on the Fund to Funds program and closed the transactions with 3 funds. Halogen Venture we announced at our December meeting. But we've also closed 2 Alabama funds since then, Measured Capital and Generator Alabama Fund. All 3 are currently in the process of requesting capital calls and are already doing deal flow in the state. I know Measured has actually closed one and is about to close a second transaction, which that's the key thing for us to go get our application fully looked at from Treasury. But then also we're actually meeting with Jesse Draper and Halogen next week to talk about their first few deals that they've made those decisions to invest in. Lend-AL, we continue to operate really high speed with Lend-AL. We're over 43, now up to 45 loans that are either approved or in the approval process. You see the 68% of our transactions are in that collateral support program, which we're really excited about because that's a new program for this version of SSBCI that Alabama didn't offer in 1.0, and the lender partners are seeing a lot of value in that. We've deployed over $10 million of our initial tranche 1 for Lend-AL at a 2.3 leverage ratio. We anticipate that number to actually grow as we finish out tranche 1 because of the way we've kind of funded our loan guarantee program. We have flexibility there to where we can require or move fewer dollars over to our guaranteed account, which allows us to increase that ratio. We've generated over $500,000 in income for the Lendale program and SSBCI as a whole. And that's going to be the key to making this an evergreen program, self-sustaining. So that we also anticipate that growing leaps and bounds as we continue to deploy capital. I've got a focus for 2025 here that we are currently in 28% of Alabama's counties. Our goal this year is to get to 50% by the end of the year, and we think we can do that with the strong lending partners, the strong demand we're seeing on the Invest AL side. Our mission is statewide, and we want our portfolio construction to reflect that. You see our average company size, 5 FTE. We're hitting that small business that we're trying to. That's our target. And then what I think is very interesting is where our average loan amount for Lend AL is over $500,000, but our median is about $185,000. And so, $500,000 and $185,000, which that tells us that while we're doing some large loans, we're also doing a lot of small loans, helping small businesses start up. And you see that reflected in the loan purpose there, where we've got 40% of our funding is going to startups. 42% helping to expand and getting working capital to grow operations and acquire new customers. And then 12% of our funds are going to acquiring businesses themselves. And that kind of goes into our strategic plan for 2025. Our goal, as I said, is to get statewide. So we want to be in at least half of Alabama's counties by the end of the year. We want to continue to work on our portfolio construction to align with Catalyst to make sure that we've got innovative companies that we're helping in furtherance of Innovate Alabama's mission. And the other piece is just internally, we continue to refine our processes and try to get better. We're a startup and we want to continue getting better. And so one of those is like getting quicker. So we want to make sure that when you interact with Innovate Alabama, you're getting transparent communication quickly. But then also we want our process to be as streamlined as possible so we can decision some of those transactions that come through our pipeline as quickly as possible. I'd love to get it down to 5 days. I want to touch on a couple of success stories because I know we talk a lot about high-level numbers, but we've got it goes beyond the data, and we've got some really interesting and compelling stories and small businesses that we're impacting. And I'll start with SmartWiz. It's a B2B SaaS company based in Birmingham. It's revolutionizing tax preparation for CPAs. The way that Tevin and his team at SmartWiz work is they have developed an advanced Copilot AI solution that automates data with the IRS in their back office functions. Their CEO, Tevin, they turned down an opportunity to stay in California. An investor wanted them to stay there. They turned it down because they wanted to build back in his home state of Alabama. We're thrilled. They're based at Innovation Depot, and we're thrilled to be a part of what they're building there, bringing new tech jobs to Alabama. Saturn Materials, based in Brilliant, Alabama and Marion County. It's a manufacturer that is actually home-based in Mississippi. But they, as part of our commitment to Saturn, they're bringing operations to the state of Alabama and building out a facility. Part of our transaction allowed them to go get some equipment that they needed to build out the facility here. They utilize fly ash byproducts and cement substitutes to produce durable masonry products with a very low environmental footprint. I had to read that because it goes above my pay grade. ALK2 Powerboats is based in Dothan, Alabama. It's a family-owned boat manufacturer. They have customers across the Southeast, and their growth story reflects the importance of investing in family-owned businesses here in Alabama. And that's also some alignment wherever TC is with Outdoor Rec and CKL. I would get on the boat this weekend. I'd love to do that. And then finally, Chonix, agritech innovator advancing regenerative farming practices and based in Robertsdale, Alabama and Baldwin County. They focus on soil revitalization using organic waste to improve soil health and reduce dependency on synthetic fertilizers. Our investment in Chonix is helping Chonix go to market and partner with distributors and farmers across the country. Their work is pivotal in supporting Alabama's agriculture sector while addressing critical environmental challenges that farmers across the state face. So in conclusion, I'd just like to reemphasize that with Lend AL and Invest AL, we're just getting started. I'm excited about how our programs are being catalysts for innovation and job growth across the state, and helping strengthen communities through the small businesses that we serve. So thank you. And any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So, just curious, given the difference in average and the median size, what's the biggest loan we have?
$1 million. Well, so the biggest commitment, SSBCI commitment, is $1 million. The loan is actually much larger because we're only guaranteeing or supporting up to 50% because we have to hit that 1-to-1 ratio where for every dollar that we commit, there has to be a dollar from private sector that's in it.
I think you said you had 500,000 in income. Where did that come from?
It's a combination of the way our program is set up with the initial fee structure. There's interest from our accounts, both operating and with our collateral support program, where we're actually putting those dollars at the lender, but in a money market or interest-bearing account where we're pulling back that interest.
Right?
Will those dollars eventually be a part of dollars that can be loaned, or is that only going to be in a silo for operational expenses and the like?
I'll let Cynthia respond on permanent use for that, but once income comes back, it's free and clear of the federal program. Now,
I think that's TBD.
Mhm.
We want to hold it for reinvestment. It depends on where we're going with support for the organization as to whether or not we use it for operations. But the goal, as Charlie said, is to reinvest in companies. We want this fund to be evergreen.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And thank you, Representative Garrett. Next up, we have the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Initiative and the Venture Studios. And we will ask Mr. Abe Harper to please give us the introduction.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure to provide an update today on the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Initiative, a little more affectionately known to those of us proximate as IACAI. A mouthful. It's no secret that one of our challenges and barriers that we've been addressing is access to capital. And that barrier creates a huge opportunity for us to foster innovation and economic growth across our state. Excuse me. So since our last board meeting in December, the Advisory Council and its 30-plus members have convened regularly, sharing their collective expertise and wisdom to help to carry that mission forward to make sure we provide meaningful ways for access to capital. The council remains focused on building a pipeline of venture-backable, high-growth companies promoting corporate investment and innovation across the state while attracting investment to Alabama founders. So particularly for 2025, we're excited to launch the Innovate Alabama Venture Studio. It's a collaborative partnership through Harmony Venture Labs and Innovate Alabama. And this initiative is designed to address a critical gap in the early stage pipeline by creating and launching new venture-backable, high-growth companies. Over the next 3 years, our goal is to really spin out 10 high-growth startups with an emphasis on leveraging Alabama's unique strengths and market opportunities. So as we really continue to refine the growth and strategies and execute goals, the Advisory Council will play a pivotal role in these efforts and really aligning those efforts to the core principles of Innovate Alabama, which are transparency and collaboration, to make sure that we remain aligned with the broader objectives of our mission. We look forward to sharing additional updates and recommendations with the board at subsequent meetings throughout the year. But for now, I'd like to turn it over to our program director, Mary Beth Grant, who will share a little bit more information about the Venture Studio and the council's recent work.
Great. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the progress of the Innovate Alabama Capital Access Initiative and the Venture Studio. These efforts and programs seek to strengthen Alabama's entrepreneurial ecosystem and ensure that our founders and startups within the state have the capital and resources they need to succeed. In January, the Capital Access Initiative Advisory Council convened to discuss the Venture Studio Fund and supporting the nature of creating a fund as a mechanism for supporting portfolio companies that emerge from the Venture Studio to help them scale and grow. During this discussion, the council kind of went back and forth and all agreed that they supported removing any caps of funds for returns, and then also recommended that Innovate Alabama be treated equitably as other LPs in the fund would be as well. In addition to discussing the Venture Studio Fund, the council also initiated some early stage discussions on the creation of a dedicated Innovate Alabama Venture Fund that would be created to provide broader capital access for Alabama-based founders and startups. So some kind of updates on that initiative include the council, and we're going to create relevant subcommittees, including a dedicated group focused on a fund-of-fund strategy. We'll convene over the next few weeks and months to develop a comprehensive roadmap and strategy for how we should structure and implement that fund. And the primary objective of this fund would be to design a sustainable, long-term, evergreen investment vehicle that enhances availability of early stage capital within the state. And our hope is that we'll be able to present a detailed roadmap of this at the June board meeting. So focusing in on some updates on the Venture Studio, we've been working very closely with Harmony Venture Labs over the last couple of weeks to finalize some of the contract agreements with the goal of officially launching the studio and having all of those agreements in place over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And just as just to reiterate, the studio is positioned to drive innovation by systematically identifying, validating, and launching at least 10 high-growth companies directly in collaboration with Alabama corporations throughout the state. So over the last couple of weeks, Harmony Venture Labs has already kind of hit the ground running. They've secured one committed corporate partner with a company that is ready to start the Venture Studio, kind of start that ideation process. And they have several proposals out and are engaged with multiple corporations throughout the state to also enter those companies into the studio as well. And so our kind of next milestone for the Venture Studio will be to finalize that fund structure in order to support these companies that come out of the studio. And so with this fund, we'll structure it as a $10 million fund, and $5 million, we're looking at $5 million coming from committed capital from Innovate Alabama, and then $5 million from those corporate partners that are engaged with the studio or other relevant stakeholders throughout the state. And so we're kind of in the final stages of drafting those terms and the structure and incorporating feedback from the advisory council of how we want to do that. And so as soon as we get that all put together, we'll bring it back to the board for review. And so as we continue these programs and initiatives, our focus remains on ensuring that Alabama entrepreneurs have the access to the resources, capital, and partnerships they need for success. And so over the next couple of weeks, we'll continue to get the advisory council back together and some of the subcommittee groups to talk about what the Innovate Alabama Venture Fund will look like, while also finalizing the Venture Studio Fund as well. And so look forward to bringing those two fund programs back in front of the group later this year. And with that, I'll take any questions from the group. And if none, that's okay too.
Chairman, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. Mr. Harper. Next up, we'll have the supplemental grant funding program. We'll ask Dr. Chambers to do the introduction.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is the SBIR or STTR program. Some people call it SIB or SITR. So these are programs where if you receive a federal grant of these types, Alabama now offers the opportunity to match that for phase one up to $100,000, or if you get a phase two grant up to $250,000. It's been a highly successful program. We've been very fortunate. There's been a tremendous amount of interest in the program. And I wanted to introduce Miller Gerben, who's the new president of EDPA, who can give us more details.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael, and good afternoon, board, or good afternoon again to many of you. So we have talked through some of these numbers before, but I just wanted to, I know we've got a bunch of, we've got at least Senator Gudger, thank you. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. But want to make sure that y'all see these numbers to reiterate Michael's mention of this program having some great results, and then tell you about a couple changes and a couple things we're thinking about. So we've gone through 5 completed rounds, and actually the first round was in August of 22. So it actually predated Cynthia's tenure with Innovate Alabama, but it was a great opportunity to get some of the Innovate Alabama work going. But through those 5 rounds, we have had 68 unique companies that have received funding. And 5 or 6 of those have actually come from outside of the state as a result of changing the legislation in 2023 to allow for those companies to be recruited to the state of Alabama to receive some of that funding. So that's exciting. And we continue to market to companies outside of Alabama that have received those federal funds and would be great. And, to Cynthia's point, in line with the Catalyst plan, to make sure that we are drawing great companies to Alabama. Those 68 companies have received $14.3 million. And we ask them to send us reports every 6 months. And the length of these grants, the maximum amount of the grant time period for the reporting is 2 years. So every 6 months, they send us a report, and then they send a final report at 2 years, and we send them some nominal but withheld funds just to make sure we get that final report. And it's really exciting that we've seen the job creation and growth and retention that these funds have resulted in. So looking at 430 plus jobs that have been retained or created in Alabama. And to sort of take Charlie's model, the stories are really compelling too. I know we've talked about analytical AI in Birmingham, but they were able to hire someone to create a relationship that ultimately resulted in a $20 million federal contract for them. But there's another company, Link, in Huntsville they received a much smaller award and received phase 1 funds, developed a relationship with AF Works and Space Works up in Huntsville, and that could potentially get them access to a lot more funding, but also longer term create on-ramps for them for the U.S. Air Force and for U.S. Space Force. So those are 2 examples. One other I'll mention, one company, Zeus up in Huntsville, utilized the funding to hire and relocate 2 engineers from out of state. So that was 2 direct jobs that were created for one small company as a result of this funding. So it really is moving the needle. So little timeline for this year. We're excited to have some more of the same, but also some different approaches. We are, as I mentioned, continuing to market the availability of these funds to companies that are outside of the state to entice them to Alabama. And those applications are open right now. So as you go about your daily life, if you are interacting with companies that have, R&D based grants, please tell them to apply. It's great free money. But one of the things that we would love to see as part of the review process is potentially a pitch component and allowing sort of Innovate to put a face with the names of these companies and these founders, but also to have the founders to see that, we're all here and we're excited for them to thrive in Alabama. So that would give the review committee the opportunity to hear them pitch, but then also to ask some key questions, whether that's about, use of funds or intellectual property or all of the various things that we end up asking about during that application process. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to potentially connect with some of those founders directly. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's a really fun program and we're excited to keep doing the good work.
Thank you.
Well,
All right.
How many applications do we have for this term so far?
Right now we have 4. Oh, that's one thing I should mention is that slide says February 22nd is the deadline, but given some of the uncertainty in Washington, we have decided to extend that deadline to February 28th to give people a little bit more time if they're waiting on an award, if it's sort of pending, that they can have a little bit more time to get that application in. So
So good.
Do what?
That's what the website says, so that's great.
Perfect. Love it when a plan comes together.
And Miller, I just
Yes,
want to
sir.
reinforce the point on the jobs created. Those numbers are phenomenal, but that's in a very short period of time at a very early stage, and those numbers will grow and, very likely multiply. And I think that's very exciting
Yes.
to see that this early in process.
And I think that's a really important point, is that these funds are allowing companies to hire people, but then they're also allowing them to maybe engage a consultant to help them raise additional capital, which would then in turn create more jobs. So it's catalytic for sure.
I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of these companies after the award's been made, and they're very, very thankful and leaning forward. This allows them to make some strategic hires, as has been said. That really helps them to get into new areas and have expertise that is profound in some areas. So it's a super program and having a big impact on some of these smaller companies.
And just to continue the point, these are Alabama businesses. They're Alabama families. They're Alabama entrepreneurs. They're not international companies. They're not, these are Alabamians that we are helping find their way to substantial success and growth opportunity. And I think it's
Absolutely. Okay. Senator Reed. Or excuse me, Secretary Reed. It's going to take me a minute.
I was just going to just ask if you know any of the background on the classifications of the 400 plus jobs. I'm thinking
It's a great
these are
question.
not folks that are entry level jobs. These are people with they're making big salaries. These are advanced employment opportunities.
Yes. So to that point, we do ask as part of the budget. A lot of them are using the funds to bolster staffing and to make sure that they can keep those people on board. And yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, these are PhDs. These are really sophisticated individuals that are not only contributing to this company. I mean, they, as both of y'all have said, I mean, these are leaders in their community. They are highly educated, highly compensated, and really moving the needle when it comes to innovation in the state of Alabama. So yes, these are really high growth, high wage jobs.
So just down to the thought of we're looking to increase all kinds of jobs at every level, but certainly these kinds of jobs, talking about local economies, when you have people that are these level individuals that have those kinds of incomes, I mean, that moves the needle significantly.
It absolutely does. Yeah, it's great.
One thing I'll say, we have the HRNA team due as part of our annual report. It's looking like over $111 an hour for those positions. And then Miller, if you would talk about training, upcoming training.
Oh, yes. So there are two different pieces of potential training. So one is if people are saying, hey, how do I get access to this from, I don't have a federal award, but I'd like to understand what I can do to make my company eligible for SBIR and STT awards at the federal level. BioAlabama will be hosting a workshop or a series of workshops that will help train folks that are in the R&D space that might be potentially good fits for that federal program. And then, of course, upon receiving it, hopefully, they would be eligible to apply for the Innovate funds. And then also for those that are currently recipients that have not yet applied for this funding and have questions, Michael Chambers and I are going to do a webinar in the coming days. I think we're nailing that down maybe next week, to make sure that we are letting people know what questions, answering any questions, letting people know, hey, here are the top 10 things that we see people make mistakes on, and just helping them navigate our application process so that they can be more successful. So.
And then one more through the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce and
Oh, that's right. Alabama Collective is also doing a seminar or a set of seminars around developing SBIR and STTR applications. So I believe all of that is available on the Innovate website, and it has also been communicated to those that are on the Innovate Alabama download
Is this
website.
Sharice's organization?
It is.
Here in Montgomery?
Sure is. Her and Jennifer Anderson.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just wanted to add one comment. It may be obvious that you hear a lot in the past 10 days from Washington about grants being frozen or unfrozen. This is not federal money. This is Alabama money. And if you already have a grant from the federal government, all other things being equal, none of the things that we hear happening in Washington right now should have an impact on that. So if any of that troubles you, please don't let that prevent you from applying.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes. So that's why, because there might have been people that were troubled, that is why we have extended that. But those funds are still very much available. So, yes.
Well, this was one of the first programs that Innovate Alabama stood up.
Mhm.
A lot of folks
The very
worked hard
first.
to get that. It was very rewarding, and I think a lot of credit to those of you who particularly contributed that effort to see the success of this program. So thanks to each of you and all of you.
Thank you, Chairman Poole. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Miller. Okay, our final program that we will review today is the Network Designation Program, and we will ask Mr. Abe Harper again to do the introduction.
Thank you, Madam CEO. My turn again. It's not a good thing if you're playing golf. So, Mr. Chairman, let's talk a little bit more about the Network Designation Program. Madam CEO introduced it a little bit ago and brought up some points and kind of where we are in round 3. And since December, the team's really been focused on getting the round 3 applications reviewed and approved. For a few points of note, there were 195 initial interest forms, which is a new step that was added to help kind of delineate the businesses that had previously applied and the eligible businesses for the Network Designation Program. We received 74 network designation applications and 74 project grant applications. And after the review process, we will award approximately 15 million in network designation. It's 15, 15, not 100.
Not really.
As a result of this round. So I'm pleased to bring Stefan to the podium to share with us a little more detail on round 3 and where we are.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Stefan Petrushka. I am here with HRNA Advisors. You might be familiar with Imran Akhil from previous meetings. Imran is not feeling well today, so I'm stepping in. But it's all right because I've been really acting as the network manager for the past year or so. And so here we are diving into updates on round 3. So here we have a recap showing, I guess to zoom out a little bit and discuss what the network is intending to do. This is intending to create an environment where innovation can thrive and create a network where innovation-related programming we can provide seed funding for innovation projects and encourage partnerships within the innovation ecosystem. And so the network is designed to recognize and award committees, organizations, and institutions for their commitment to supporting innovation and knowledge-based economic activity. And so here we have a recap of rounds 1 and 2, looking back to the past 2 years. So we have 2023 and 2024. We've got the applications received, applications approved, as well as the approval rate. You can see that the program is becoming more competitive over time. And so in 2023, most applicants were approved, and as interest has increased and the program has become more refined, round 2, the approval rate was 62%. And I guess it's also important to point out that the current membership for the network is over 100 organizations, communities, and educational institutions. So that is including 112 at this time. Similarly here, so we're looking at still rounds 1 and 2. This is looking at the actual disbursement of funds that went out in both. I'm not going to spend too much time going over this, but I think it's just important to call out that over the past 2 rounds, we have dispersed over $17 million. And as a reminder, I'm sure you all know, but there are 2 different kinds of grants, which I am explaining to folks all the time. So it's okay if that's a little confusing. But there are designation grants. So when you are admitted to the network, there's a smaller grant that's available to everyone that becomes a member, one-time grant. And then there are project grants, which are more competitive from a larger pot of money and are available to both existing members of the network as well as newly applying members of the network. And so here we are, critical timing today, presenting all this to you. I think by either Friday or early next week, we're going to be sending out determinations. So all of the applicants that submitted for these grants are going to find out whether they're receiving funding or not. And we're expecting to disperse funds in the next month or so. Okay, so here we are looking at, and hopefully everyone can read this, we're looking at the actual results from the access. So, Innovate has its 3 pillars: access to resources, talent retention and development, and outdoor recreation and lifestyle. And so here we're looking at the results from access to resources. We received 18 new applications for network membership, and we are admitting the 18. There's a grant that's going to go to those organizations, and then a number of those organizations combined with a number of the existing members submitted for project grants. And so most of those are also receiving project grant funds. That is totaling $4 million in project grant funds, which is bringing us to $4.6 million in investments going to access to resources, or the organizations that we categorize as such. Here you can see that we're admitting 20, it's actually 22, so forgive me, there's a typo in that first sentence, but there are 22 out of the 23 applicants going for the talent development and retention designation are being admitted and receiving a small grant, as well as $4.1 million going to 16 different successful grant applicants out of the 26 that applied during this round. And next, bringing us to outdoor recreation and lifestyle. So there are 21 new members that are being admitted out of 29. And there are going to be 9 project grants administered, a little more competitive. It was 9 out of 20 here. And that is a pool of $4.7 million in project grant funds, totaling 5.7 for outdoor rec, really exciting for those members. And so to summarize all of that, there was a lot of numbers I just shared with you. All of that comes to 62 new network members successfully joining Innovate Alabama's network of resources and grant pools and eventual opportunities for collaboration. Altogether, that is about $15 million being dispersed in the next month. So I'm going to pause there. I have another piece to discuss, but I'm wondering if you have any questions. I know several of you have been.
Network designation, yeah.
How is the distribution throughout the state? Do you have any data?
We do have the data. I don't have that map, but it is well distributed. I think it was something like 20 counties represented this round out of Alabama's 67. I can follow up with that information, but it's all over the state, and that's something we're trying to be mindful of. And so the selection criteria that's used to actually evaluate the applications takes into account and provides some additional scoring to sort of counteract the concentrations of what we might see in Huntsville and Birmingham and the other urban clusters throughout the state. So. No other questions? Okay, All right, and I am next going to talk about the asset map that my team has been putting together. Full disclosure, this has not been my child, and so I'm speaking about something that I've not been leading, but I'm going to try and do it justice here. So the asset map, for those, again, I assume everyone here is sort of familiar with what this idea is, but this was originally something that Innovate was going to prepare to really examine the different assets, actors, organizations, resources throughout the state of Alabama. And when Innovate really got off the ground and had stood up all of these different funding programs, we decided to take that original idea and really apply it to the work that Innovate is doing. And so what the asset map has become is a map showing all of the different organizations and resources available throughout the state that are also related to the work that Innovate is doing, that Innovate is supporting. So, there are a couple objectives here. So this is going to be a live interactive map that will be accessible for folks to use and to study and to analyze and to consult. Statewide, this is just a screen grab of what it currently looks like. Two objectives for this tool. So highlighting the assets, entities, and organizations that participate for Innovate Alabama. So to show others what Innovate's impact looks like throughout the state, and then also to show key demographic and economic indicators on a county level basis. So that was the sort of level of geography we thought was appropriate, and the data was available. And so you can sort of take a look back and forth between various concentrations of assets, and then also look at what's going on in different counties that might explain some of what we see on this map. And so here we have an example of what comes up when you will select one of the assets off to the right. That is eGenius Micro in Huntsville, for example. And here you can see that the user is able to find information about what Innovate Alabama program they participated in. So in this case, it's SIBR Sitter, as well as find basic information about the organization very quickly. The programs that are going to be represented here range from tax credits to network, SSBCI, outdoor rec, so on and so forth. So it's going to be quite comprehensive. And in addition, so in looking at the county level socioeconomic data that's going to be available, we just provided a list of the different data points. So things like population, median income, housing units, housing tenure, and when we say that, we're talking about home ownership versus the share of renters, information about the poverty level locally, employment, educational attainment, broadband access, and health insurance coverage rates. And with this kind of information, we think that there can be many use cases for the map. An entity may use the map, as a tool to look for collaborators within the network. And entrepreneurs may look to identify resources of capital or learn about others participating in existing programs. And ultimately, by showcasing the abundant activities of Innovate to external audiences, we hope that this tool can help in attracting more interest in the innovation economy in Alabama. So we're excited to launch this tool and allow users to play around with it very soon. Thank you. Any questions? I guess one question might be, when is this going to be launched? And I don't have an exact date, but it's going to be very soon.
Yeah, very soon. We wanted to get through some additional testing. If you guys on the board, if you recall the first version of this map, some of the feedback that we received is really, there's too much information in the map and it was almost overwhelming. So what we've done is taken a step back, and we are going to start only with Innovate Alabama programs, assets, and then we'll grow out from there. And I think it's much more manageable. It's much more user-friendly. And our intent after you guys have heard the update is that we will roll it out within the next month.
Well, and I would just point out that this was a clear mandate from the Innovation Commission to develop an asset map. And so this is a continuation of the effort to accomplish that objective as clearly identified as a priority by the Innovation Commission. So,
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our update. Thank you, Stefan, and I will turn it back to you.
all right, thank you. That does conclude the substantive items of our agenda. Before I close us out with a few comments, are there any other items for the good of the order? Hearing none, I thought I would give a quick update. There was a meeting today of the Alabama Growth Alliance. Some of you may have heard of that, some of you may not. We have several board members that overlap those boards, so I thought I would just mention the Alabama Growth Alliance has formed really with a broader economic development mission than Innovate Alabama, but modeled substantially after the public-private partnership model of Innovate Alabama. So this entity really served as the template as it relates to the formation of the Alabama Growth Alliance. That board has met a couple times, really one of their first formal meetings today. Cynthia presented to the board. Innovate has a seat on that board. And so the entities are intertwined, but I thought it important to discuss and disclose openly to this board kind of the relationship between those entities that I think will be critical to both going forward. And so if you either serve or hear or aware of or interface with the AGA, the Alabama Growth Alliance, be aware of that relationship and let us know if we can assist in any way. I do want to recognize we have a number of founders and network designees present today. It is fun to see those founders attend these meetings and interface and interact with the board. So I want to thank those who have taken the time and effort to be with us today. I know that's been very consistent in our board meetings around the state. So that is always fun, and we thank you for your attendance. In closing, we do have the upcoming board meeting dates and locations on the agenda. Those have been distributed. I do think and would flag, I think we should talk about maybe moving some of those locations around the state. So I'd hope we can hold that open for conversation, maybe offline in the coming days and weeks, and think about that as an opportunity, although we'll need to make those decisions quickly so that we can make appropriate accommodations and plans. So, any questions or comments? If not, this will adjourn this meeting of Innovate Alabama's board. Thank you.
Thank you.